Good morning to those who have joined us. We're just waiting another minute or two for additional people to come into the webinar, and then we'll get started. So just bear with us for another minute or two. Just say hi to everybody who's in the room with me now. We're going to be starting in 1 minute, just waiting for one or two additional people to join us, and then we'll be going. So the next time I talk, we will be starting the webinar presentation. Okay, everybody, let's go. Hello and good morning. Welcome to this webinar on designing products and services for procurement. This is part of the Delivering Growth for SMEs programme that is being run by Hammersmith and Fulham and delivered to you by Branduin Business Support. The objective, as always with these webinars, is to help you win more business, more contracts, tenders in particular from local authorities and large companies. And then we'll go on to what you need to do and direct how you're going to go and do that to particular prospects. There will be exercises through the webinar. These will be about 7 or 8 in total. It's important that you do them because it will help you apply the learning and get the best value out of the time that you're spending on the webinar. And clearly that's important. I also like the idea right at the end, perhaps, or once the webinar is finished, that you print off the slides and then you can use them as a workbook to refer back to as part of your continued learning and taking away from the program. So who am I? Well, that's me. I'm your presenter today. My name is Nigel Grant. I'm a consultant sales specialist. I've been around for a while. At least 4 decades in sales, including management and consultancy. And I now work with SME owners, helping them grow their business, in particular using methodologies that aren't aggressive or hard sales, so that they, business owners, can use their own natural personalities with a little bit of skills training to actually get more business. I've worked with Branduin for a number of years now, in particular on the Fit to Bid program, of which this is part. And I have also worked directly with businesses who are looking to do exactly what you are seeking to do, successfully, I may add. And I will use a very brief reference to one of those right at the end of the session. Here's the agenda for today, all very straightforward. We've got about an hour or so, and we'll be leaving time for questions or any discussion at the end. I know you can read an agenda, but I just want you to linger on this for a minute, just so you get familiar with some of the terms that we're going to use. And I will be putting these terms to you over the next 3 or 4 minutes in a number of different ways so that you can get some familiarity. So jobs to be done, pains and gains, products and services, and then on to sales enablement, which I'll explain to you a little bit more about when we get to that. Right at the end, we're going to talk about the opportunities and how you can go about finding opportunities to supply your products and services into the bigger companies and local authorities that you're seeking to do. I think the thing to remember here is that we're going to be covering concepts in minutes rather than the hours that we might usually spend with clients on these types of things. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming at you And quite frankly, I think getting this right could be vital to your success. So I just sit back and enjoy the ride, but take plenty of notes and do the exercises as they occur throughout. This is where we are in the program. So you can see at the top right there with the ring around it, sales enablement. And you should already have been through sessions 1, which is how to engage with procurement, session 2, bid capability, and session 3, bidding skills. I know there's going to be a lot more to come, and I'll refer to that at the end of this session, but that's where we are now. And as it says there, the objective is to help you successfully bid and win new and larger contracts. So let's get into it and have a look at this. Something called the value proposition canvas. Now, if you've been following the program and you've been following business model canvas, you'll see that this fits into business model canvas under the desirability element. If you look at the statements on the, excuse me, on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's 4 clear statements that we're trying to ensure you benefit from. And if you look at the main box, you can see on the left-hand side of the value proposition canvas, there's a square. This is all about your proposition, how you can help local authorities, tier 1s, big companies be better off, and you better know this, and also what value you deliver. So look at that bottom statement. And then the right-hand circle is all about your customer, what they are trying to achieve, what is stopping that, and what jobs they want to get done to deliver on the things that they want to achieve. Again, you'll see there's some of the terms that we've already looked at in the agenda, and I just want to expand on those a little bit now. And that's the value proposition design. So here are some of the key terms that you will be coming across, along with that little diagram in the middle, throughout certainly the first half, if not all of this session. So let's look at some of the key terms. I mean, ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to deconstruct everything into components, and then with exercises, and put it back together so that you've got something meaningful to work from. So you've got jobs to be done, you've got pains, you've got gains, and then on the left-hand side, you've got your offering into the marketplace, which is the products and services, pain relievers and gain creators. And putting all this together will help you integrate and engage with your local authority and upper tier large company marketplace. It'll help you focus on the most likely areas of success. It will help you differentiate yourself from competitors, and it will help you align with customers and what they want to achieve. And that clearly is vital to success in going forward. So let's start off by looking through the lens of jobs to be done. This is a phrase that's come into the business lexicon over recent years, and I think it supersedes a lot of other phrases that have been used, a lot of other words, and I will be using some of them later on. But jobs to be done is about what your customer is trying to get done. Now, it sounds as it's as simple as that, and reality it is, but you do sometimes need to dig deep into that in order to find out more. So it's looking at, what do your customers want to achieve? Have they got problems that they're trying to solve? Have they got needs that they are trying to satisfy that you are going to be able to identify or help them identify? And how do those fit with the big outcomes that they may be seeking, which could be things all around profitability? This helps you and the customer focus on important and meaningful issues that they want to get sorted, and ask them especially about related jobs and those that are specific to your product and service, what it is that they might be wanting to get done. It may be they want to get more jobs done. or a more important job done. You might be doing something incrementally better, or you could get them to do something radically better, which is when you're really likely to be hitting gold dust. If they can dramatically outperform what they are doing at the moment, and there is data to suggest that a 20% plus outperformance is is what will get you right into the frame, then you really are working closely with them on the jobs that they want to get done. Think of that phrase and how you're going to go about identifying the jobs that customers want to get done. We will be coming to an exercise on this in a couple of minutes. So let's look at an example, and let's look at how we can replace the product story with the job story. So what do I mean by product story? Well, we're all in business. We all have products or services that we want others to buy, we want them to engage with. And our tendency is to focus far too much on telling people about the products. But if you can work with clients, if you can work with prospects on their jobs, the jobs that they want to get done, then you are much more likely to engage with them. And here's an example. A couple of weeks ago, I needed to be in Birmingham. That's why I've got Birmingham with an exclamation mark. I needed to be there. I was working directly with a private client of mine at an exhibition, and I was helping them with the 5 days that they were going to have a stand at the exhibition. So in terms of the way we are approaching this topic, what is the job? Well, I needed and wanted to be in Birmingham. So the job is get me to Birmingham. I need to get to Birmingham. That's the job to be done. But it's not just that, because whilst the measurable outcome would be me being in Birmingham, there are some subsidiary outcomes as well. So did I actually get there? Well, yes, I did. But there are also other subsidiary outcomes, such as being on time, being there comfortably, feeling fresh, having my work stuff with me, and being in a state of mind ready to do the week's exhibition. So those are the outcomes that I'm looking for, other than just the obvious being in Birmingham. So what are the products or services that could get me there? Well, you can probably think of these. They're straightforward. I could go on the train. I could drive. I could have somebody else drive. I could have somebody from the business that I'm working with drive. Potentially, I could fly. I could go on a donkey. I could walk there. I could run there. I mean, it's 95 miles, so I'm unlikely to actually do that. Though I will say, whilst I was there, I met someone who was an ultra marathon runner doing 50 and 100-mile runs. So that may be something that he could have realistically done. And think of yourself as the supplier of potential or products and services into the job that needs to be done, and all those variety of things that I could potentially choose from in order to get the job done. And literally in this situation, but perhaps you might want to take this away, the vehicle that gets the job done, and that's the product or service you have to design and supply in order to satisfy jobs to be done needs. So we're talking about movement from A to B here, and literally it is the vehicle. But your products and services are that vehicle that will help customers and clients get the jobs done. So if you engage with them on the job story rather than the product story, you're much more likely to engage. The jobs to be done are what makes users buy your product or service. And as I mentioned when I was talking about my journey to Birmingham, it wasn't just simply the main job to be done. there were other jobs to be done as well. Excuse me. So look at things like functional jobs, social jobs, personal or emotional jobs, environmental jobs, very, very important, sustainability, net zero. All those things are different and subsidiary jobs that to the main job that need to be done. And people frequently, it's frequently said, people will buy on emotion and then afterwards justify with logic. But if you think about people buying on emotion, some of these subsidiary jobs, particularly the social jobs, the personal jobs, the environmental jobs, may actually be as appealing as getting the main job done. So very important that you look to integrate those with the product or service that you are potentially supplying to the end user. So let's go to an exercise. What I want you to do is spend the next minute or minute and a half, and you should have had this sheet sent to you, or if you haven't, just simply on a piece of paper. If you look at the column on the left-hand side, what we're asking you to do there is to look at jobs that you believe your customer needs to get done. And we're going to develop this a little bit as we go through, so don't expect to be able to answer it all perfectly straight off. But looking at the jobs that your customer needs to get done, both broadly and generally, but obviously in particular, the things that you can directly help them with. So what I'm going to do is just give you, say, a minute, minute and a half, just to start putting your thoughts down on jobs and the importance that they have for your customers. So here we go for a minute or so. Think in terms of the emotional needs that customers might want to satisfy. Think about the big things. What's the one thing your customer couldn't live without? Are there stepping stones that you can provide to help them achieve the key job? You may want to think about whether there are tasks in their personal life or functional problems that they're trying to solve that would also be important to address. Maybe just another 20 seconds on this. Okay, well, I hope that's been useful for you, because this leads us into a sequence of exercises. And you'll see on this chart, we're talking about something called pain severity and gain relevance. So let's have a look at customer pains. So this is where you start to build a picture of the sorts of things that your customer may be suffering from, may have jobs to be done as a result of these pains, where you can go in and help them. So pains are anything that could just simply annoy your customer or interrupt what they're doing. And these are things that you really do need to know and do some research on finding out. And think also in terms of what they might be doing and what is getting in the way of stopping them selling their products and services to ultimate buyers, tier ones, that sort of thing. Pains are things that you want less of. Pains are undesirable outcomes or unintended consequences, obstacles. Could be risks in what they want to do, not just financial risks, but could be reputational risks, could be all sorts of risks. So let's have a look at the exercise that goes with this. And in the same way as we've just completed the jobs to be done exercise, look at the central column there where you have got pain. So think in terms of the pains that customers may well be experiencing, and particularly those where you could have a solution, which we'll obviously come to later. We'll take about a minute or so to do this again. Pains might be things that take too much time. Or where they're making repeated mistakes, the same thing going wrong. Or is it just simply a financial barrier to what they want to achieve? What's too costly? What makes them feel bad? Come on, what are the main difficulties and challenges that your customers encounter? Just take another 20 seconds on this. So let's develop beyond this to things that your customers are actually trying to gain, the benefits that they want, the things that they genuinely do want to achieve. Are there things that are absolutely required, which without them happening means the business could not operate? Are there things that they expect to get, which will help them in the operation of the business? Are there things they desire? And those would be things presumably beyond just making money. They may well be some of the subsidiary jobs to be done that we talked about. Are they likely to achieve anything unexpected? In the same way that pains are about what customers want less of, gains are about what customers want more of. So what do they want more of here? And that's not necessarily only financial outcomes. And taking what we have been doing, let's move on to the exercise here. So expanding on those first two pieces of work that you've already done, the column on the right-hand side is all about gains and their relevance to the customer. So I would ask that you start jotting down those things that you feel are gains that your customers will want, and in particular that you can help them get. Are there savings that would make them happy? Savings in terms of time or money or effort. What would make their jobs or lives easier? Are there positive social consequences that they desire as a gain? You might even ask, how do your customers measure pains and gains or success and failure? How do they gauge performance or cost? Let's take another 30 seconds on this. Okay, we've spent a few minutes there looking at these three key issues: jobs to be done, pains and gains. And this is all about your customer. And that's how it should be, because the customer focus is absolutely key to making sure that you can design and produce the right products and services, particularly when you are looking at what local authorities want, what bigger companies want, what the tier 2, tier 1 companies want. But now we're going to look at how you use the information that you have gained there, the information you have gleaned, whether it is information that you have assumed or that you have found out. And it's always good to check your assumptions, and we know the reasons for that. So let's look at how we are going to begin to use that by way of market fit. Now, you achieve a fit when customers get excited about what you are providing. We're calling this value proposition, which is a term that you may have heard of. And it is absolutely essential that there is a market need for what you are providing. And this is what you're aiming at. You're aiming at aligning with customers and what they want to achieve. You have to make this connection, because if you don't, who will? And it's only when or if you get a market fit that you have the opportunity to pitch or compete for business. Let me say that again. It's only when or if you get a market fit that you then have the opportunity to pitch or compete for business. And it's important you check your market fit. We set up our businesses, all of us, businesses, we're supplying products or services, and we work hard and we put a lot of time and effort in, and sometimes we hope for the best, but if we're not getting a fit, then your proposition design might need to pivot. That's a word that became popular over the last couple of years. Take your focus off of you and put it back on the customer. It's not about you, it's about the customer. That's how you're going to get the market fit. And there are different stakeholders in customers. There are different people who may well require different things from you. In sales terms, there's something called the challenger customer. You may want to look that up. You may find an initial fit, but then through what we're going to move on to sales engagement, look at that a little bit further. So how do you go about getting this market fit, this elusive market fit? Well, let's have a look at how you might achieve that, the exercises you can begin to do to make sure you have got a market fit or are pivoting to having a market fit. Pain relievers. How about that? We have pains that we've talked about a few minutes ago, and you went through that little exercise of pains that customers might have. Well, the market fit comes where you provide pain relievers. So it's how your products and services will alleviate specific customer pains, how you will support the customer in them getting their jobs to be done, helping them achieve their desired outcomes. And this isn't about what we already do. This is a lot more about what we could or should be doing to provide relief into customer pains. And if you look at that little list on the right-hand side, there are a few ideas there. But what we're going to do is go into an exercise. This time it's the middle column. So look at the middle column first, pain relievers. Excuse me. And start jotting down those things that you know would help a customer relieve their pain. And in particular, note whether that is something you are not supplying but could do. And happy days, something that you are supplying, but maybe it isn't well known enough. So let's take a minute or two on this, because it is quite important that you start looking at these solutions to your customers' problems. How will you help them fix underperforming solutions? How will you help them achieve the inability to complete some jobs? Can you help limit or eradicate some common mistakes? Can you just simply help them sleep better at night by eliminating or addressing significant worries? Let's take another good minute on this. Okay, another 15 seconds. Okay. So having looked at how you can help customers relieve the pains that they have, which is always a pleasurable thing to do, an even more pleasurable thing to do is to help them with the gains that they are trying to achieve. So your gain creators is the thing or the things that your products and services will do to help the customer gain, to help the customer get the job to be done, to create benefits and outcomes and measurables that they want to see. So look again on the right-hand side, there's a little list of prompts. And not surprisingly, we're going to go into the gain creation exercise, which is on the right-hand side of this chart. So again, let's spend a couple of minutes on this, as it is so important to be able to think about and identify the gains that you're helping a customer achieve. What will please your customer to be achieving? What product outcomes can you provide that help customers exceed their expectations, are of a higher level quality than they're currently experiencing? Excuse me. Let's have another 20 seconds on this. Okay, so how does this begin to come together in terms of market fit? Well, that is all around the products and services that you can deliver that you can provide into the customer segment that you have chosen you want to work with. We will talk a little bit about that in a while. And you need to recall that products or services themselves don't just create value. It is only in relation to a customer segment and their jobs, pains and gains. And I've got a little aid memoir for that a bit later in the session, which I hope is something that will stick with you. So there's a reality in designing products and services. You may or may not be able to do that from scratch. You may need to look at adapting or amending what you are already doing if it will be more directed to the solution for a customer pain or gain that you have already identified. You may have already started with an idea or a plan, that this is an opportunity to review, rebuild, recover, to make sure you are now in 2022 going in the right direction. The army says a plan only works up until the point you engage with the enemy. Well, we don't want to think of customers as enemy, but they make that point. And the great philosopher and business guru, Mike Tyson, says that everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. And I quite like that, because again, we're not physically going to get punched in the face, but if anything did it, I'm sure the pandemic did. And it's the opportunity to recover from that and look at going forward. So in terms of a bit of circular activity, it's returning to the pains and gains, pain relief, the gain creation, to test your market fit and to do the exercise on the left-hand side, which is your products and services. And now what you feel it is important that you either do offer or could offer that will create that market fit that you seek. And therefore potential customers, the local authorities will be willing to engage with you. So let's spend a minute and a half on this. You know what your products and services are. Think about how through pain relief and gain creation, they can be adapted much more to what a large company, a tier one, a local authority actually wants to be achieving. Another 20 seconds. Okay, so we're about 2/3 through. Here's a couple of very quick summary slides on the issues that we've just been talking about. And you can see they're all positioned there on this chart so that you can use it to begin to put together those things that we have been talking about. What value do we deliver? What cost problems do we solve? What needs are we satisfying? What outcomes have we identified? What jobs to be done? And value proposition for me boils down to one very simple statement, which I will reinforce at the end of the session. How is a customer better off by engaging with us? How is a local authority? How is a large company? How is a tier one, tier two business better off by engaging with us? Never mind anybody else, with us. And as a very quick summary, there's 5 hints, tips there, just for you to be aware of. really to make sure that you are just focusing quite clearly on the things that you need to focus on. And I certainly suggest that you print this off just to make sure you have a checklist for those things that you need to be looking at in order to ensure that your value proposition design is the best that it can be. Okay, excuse me. On to the final third, and we're going to talk about sales enablement. What is sales enablement? Well, sales enablement is really about getting the right products and services in front of the right customers and clients in situations where they are most likely to buy. We can use it to check the effectiveness of any marketing that you're doing. And frankly, what we've been talking about a lot of is marketing. And I'm going to make reference to that again right at the end. In sales talk, marketing is all about prospecting, and that's finding the right people who are most likely to buy your products. But what sales enablement is also going to do is enable you to take what we've done so far in this session and position it ready to move into your chosen marketplace. And I know from the whole program that future sessions are focused on that. And that's why it's very important that you go all the way through this program and take any learning from today forward. And we've got three key concepts that we're going to have a look at. And those three key concepts should help you find your niche in terms of where to focus the time, energy, finance, the return on investment that you're going to put into making your business work. So the first section is segments and ideal clients. And this is very much about knowing who your key customers and prospects are. And not those that you just have, but those that you are aiming at as well. So it is vital in any form of business that you have a good idea of who you are aiming at your products and services at. Not on the basis that, well, I will sell to anybody who comes to me. That may or may not be the right thing to do. This is much more about outbound prospecting and identifying who the ideal clients would be. And if you look at the bottom there, it talks about account-based marketing. And that's building a silo of ideal prospects. And if you're looking in your area with your particular product or service to sell to big companies, local authorities, tier ones, tier twos, you should be able to identify them because they should be pretty obvious. And when you've identified them, that's when you can approach them. Now that requires some selling skills, which we're not going to go into today. But in terms of being able to approach them, one thing you do need to do is look at the situations they are in. And that's because situations reveal client needs, and it's the needs that reveal the jobs to be done. So if you look on the left-hand box there, we're talking about situations. Frequently, customers don't know they have a need. I mean, the most obvious example is they don't know they have a need for you. Otherwise, they'd have been on the phone or emailing you, asking you to go in and see them. So it's establishing situations that they will recognize that will indicate they have needs for your product or service. And I said I'd got a tip, so here's one of my little smart tips. It's the X Factor tip. And if you look at the bottom there, we've talked about content and then context. What most businesses want to do is they want to talk about themselves, their content, what they can or can't do, how good they are, all of that stuff. But context, the X factor, changing the N to X, puts the focus on the customer. The context is what jobs have they got that need doing? because then you can supply directly into that, and you can provide content to justify why you are offering those products and services once you know the specific context and where they're going to be used. We're going to do a little exercise about situations, but if you look at the right-hand box there, it's all sorts of things, triggers, events, the things that really make somebody aware that there are changes taking place, particularly contracts being one, particularly people going in or out of a business. So just put your thinking cap on here and think what situations could exist for your key clients, the local authorities and the large businesses, the large buyers, that might alert them to a need for you, or might alert you to being able to approach them and ask if that situation exists, and therefore, do they have a need? So let's take a couple of minutes on this exercise. Again, pretty important. Actually, maybe only 1 minute, because what's important, we're getting towards the end of the session. So now we're asking you to think in terms of situations that your large prospective customers could have happening, which indicate to you and should indicate to them once they're appraised of it by you that they have a need for what you do. Just another 30 seconds on this. And think about your existing customers and situations they've found themselves in. And keep working on this to help you identify where your product or service fits. Keep working on this to help your client identify that they may have a need for your product or service. Just another 15 seconds. Okay, and then key concept 3 is putting us back to outcomes and what your client is looking to do. So your value proposition is all about how the customer is better off by engaging with you. It's all about the jobs that you are helping them get done. It's all about outcomes that they are seeking to get, and they reveal needs that they want to have satisfied. Those outcomes could be all the things that we've looked at earlier: increasing productivity, building market share, could be environmental awareness, building sales, customer retention. Outcomes insists that you take a walk in their shoes. And this should prompt you to be able to quantify the value you add to a client. If you can't quantify it, taking a chance of leaving it to the client to make, perhaps usually a subjective decision on what the value is. And that might be that they don't read correct value into what you are supplying them. So focus on those outcomes with your value proposition, taking a walk in their shoes. So I said there were 3 key concepts, and that was going to help you build the niche. And this is it. This is where taking what we have learned going forward, particularly with the input you're going to get in the next 3-4 sessions, is really going to pay dividends. You put your ideal client together in situations that they may have with the outcomes that you believe or they believe they want to achieve. And in the middle, in the eye of that Venn diagram, you've got your niche. And this is the focus for the effort that you are going to be putting in for however long you are going to be in business. It's the focus about talking the language of the client. It's the X factor, the context rather than the content, where you focus that limited amount of time and effort and energy, creativity in order to get the best results. We're getting just to the end now. So here's a summary and takeaway on sales enablement. But let's have a look a bit more generally about what we've done today, what we've covered this morning. We've covered value proposition design and the canvas. We looked at the basic canvas model. We look at the components of jobs to be done, pains and gains, pain relievers and gain creators, how you go about satisfying what a customer wants, how putting them together helps you get a market fit so that you can then design products and services that will succeed. And we've looked at sales enablement, which is moving a bit from the marketing to the sales side of things in order to be able to apply the value proposition that you have developed. And we looked at those 3 key concepts in order to give you a niche focus. And here's a little anecdote just before we get into absolutely the final slides. I mentioned earlier about marketing. I was working with a private client last year, and it started off in a group session, one of the group sessions that I was running for, in this case, Hertfordshire-based businesses. And the topic was marketing. And it went round the table and everybody said, yeah, I'm doing this with website, I'm doing this with social media, I'm doing blah, blah, and all those sorts of things. And this particular business, their representative there, it was the owner of the business, said, well, look, I don't really know anything about marketing, to tell you the truth. I just try and find out what customers want and then give it to them. And it was like a stunned silence came across the room. I just try and find out what customers want and then give it to them. And right at the beginning, I mentioned that I'd worked with a client who was looking at winning a major contract. This was the client. It turned out after a few months, she became aware through a personal contact of a major company close to her who wanted what she was supplying. It was a catering business. She learned who to contact and made contact with them. And just that simple concept, which we worked on, of finding out what customers want and giving it to them, won her the major contract. It was nearly as easy as that. Obviously, some work went into it, but just think how simple it can be. And frankly, this was a major contract for her, which over the next 3 years will change her life because of the money that it will bring in and the opportunity it will give her to express herself in what she does. So I hope you find that positive, and even more positive now, let's spend a minute just looking at the top 3 things that you are going to do or going to get done in your business that are coming to you as a result of having sat in this webinar. You owe this to yourself. Going away with nothing is as ineffective as not having turned up at all. It's a personal contract, personal commitment to deliver. I can't really overemphasize it too much. So I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit heavy after we had a light moment there, but this is your personal contract. So let's just take a minute for you to jot down the top 3 things you know you can do as a result of the learning that you've got from this webinar. Give you another 20 seconds here because this is important. Okay, we're nearly out of time, so I've got 4 quick outro slides. Where do you get these opportunities? Well, there are bids and tenders portals. So you can see on the left-hand side, your local Hammersmith and Fulham portal. There are bigger ones. So you've got regional London, and then you've got national portals. Plus there are websites such as Find a Tender or Contracts Finder. But also, I say, use your eyes and ears, walk around, get other sources of local information, talk to people. The example I literally just gave you about the catering contract came from a conversation that the business owner had with somebody. And that's how she learned out that this contract was up for grabs. The programme schedule, well, here's today, 14th of April, which has been products and services for procurement. You've got 4 vital sessions ahead of you. These are going to be presented by expert Branduin advisors and presenters. Certainly Tony, Nicola and Noshir. I've worked with them all. They really know their stuff. It's going to be about how to present and direct your products and services to prospective buyers. And then on the 21st of June, if there was ever a must-attend event, it's the Meet the Buyer event at the town hall. It's in the afternoon, and meeting the buyer just gives you the opportunity to dot I's and cross T's on all of those things that you've been putting together. Must be in your diary. We've then got one-to-one advice sessions. And these are really there to help you. So if you look on the left-hand side there, you'll see what the contents of a participant action plan will be. And these one-to-one advice sessions are designed to help you individually through the procurement process. And I say it is absolutely vital you take your allocated time on these. They have the greatest benefit. They answer questions. They fine-tune what you want to do. Frankly, they are the most important element. I've run a huge number of group sessions and one-to-one sessions over the last couple of years. And it is always the case that however much people get from the group sessions, they get so much more from the one-to-one sessions. It's part of the program and really should be taken advantage of. And the way that you do that is get in touch with Noshir. He's one of the Branduin advisors. I think you can also get in touch with Nauza, who is the managing director and owner of Branduin. He will be able to help you as well. But Noshir is the man there with a phone number and an email. And then that will lead on to your submitting an expression of interest. And we will ensure you are guided in this. Do take bookings for one-to-one sessions. Okay, we are finished. I hope you've got ideas, input, got some practicalities from today so that you can be just simply more effective in what you are doing. I really sincerely hope that, and would ask if there are any questions. Lisa, I think it's over to you to perhaps channel through any questions. Or deal with anything now that needs to be taken place.
Please use the chat facility to enter any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, for your comment. Okay, I don't mind hanging on for another minute or so, but we are at, we've just gone past 11 o'clock. So unless there is anything else, I think that that closes the session. And I'm just happy to hang on with Nauza and Lisa if we just want to have a bit of a debrief as everybody else leaves the room. Goodbye, everybody. Hope you've really gained from this.